All right, ladies and gentlemen, apologize if I'm sounding a little bit unwell today. I actually am unwell. But one thing that is well in the Wuthering Waves space is, of course, the release of some information regarding the newest character, Ciaccona, or Ciaccona. Yeah, that's the first time I'm going to be pronouncing it properly. You might realize I've been pronouncing it incorrectly on purpose. But now that that's out of the way, Kuros came out with her combat showcase, as well as some final details on her kit. And so we're going to go ahead, we're going to give both of those a look, do a bit of a deeper analysis of all of her different mechanics, knowing that we've done a brief overview of it before, but having some footage on the side and having the actual video demonstration should make it a little bit more in-depth. So with that, let's go ahead, let's start off with her showcase and see what she's got in store for us, because I've got a sneak preview of it, and it's actually quite nice. Let's go ahead. Let's dive right on into it. 1 minute and 17 seconds. Let's go. They're definitely making this 2D art, this whole like anime style thing at the start of like every combat showcase. I think that's the new norm. I think it started specifically with Cantarella's release, where they've gotten, this whole anime style, and then it's going to transition into, the actual splash. And then a little bit further from there, but I mean, I like it. It's giving me the Bambi vibes. Have we even seen these before? Like, I feel like these are like the animals that we usually accidentally kill because the combat will like auto lock onto them and then destroy them in one shot. Okay.
Off
Doing her
we go.
singing.
May my poems light the way on your path ahead.
All right, so yeah, that's exactly what happened over here. That we got the nice 2D to 2D transition. I can't believe that was 20 seconds. Yeah, the nice 2D to 2D transition, and now I guess we'll get into our actual combat. This is some crazy music. And hold up, does she actually shoot somebody in her basic attack chain? Hold up. Huh? I had no idea she actually did this in her kit. I thought she never actually used her pistol for any attack. But it's right there. Okay. She's got the air attacks too. And then she has her little selves that she summons that I do believe each one of these grants a 12% arrow damage buff. So if you don't have these on the field permanently, you're in some trouble. Okay. That's pretty neat.
Let the show begin.
Annihilation.
Wait. We got this nice, chill little music in the background, then Rover just comes in. Annihilation!
Annihilation.
Sorry, I can't take this one seriously. I cannot take this trailer seriously anymore. Surely they could have chosen, like, a different voice line that would have, like, fit the vibes a bit more. We got, like, her, like, lightly singing in the background, and bro's just... Annihilation!
The wicked will face judgment.
Hey, Rover's getting in on... Female Rover's getting in on it as well. Alright, alright. Well, yeah, it's pretty clear that with Ciaccona applying a fuck ton of arrow erosion, that's going to synergize very well with Rover's kit, so I'm glad that they had, they showed off some of that more supportive ability in her kit. Overall, yeah, music was actually quite nice. Pretty good.
Divinity, can you hear the poems I recite?
And you know one thing for certain, when it comes to the end of this combat showcase, this is probably also going to be the start of Ciaccona's actual trailer. Her showcase that's going to be releasing, I think, maybe like later today. Yeah, I'm going to put money on this being the starting couple of frames of her actual showcase, where we're going to dive a little bit into her story. Yep. I'll put money on that one, because the same exact thing happened with Zani's, and this looks like it. I mean, it looks way too high quality to not actually be featured in there. So yeah, we saw a lot of stuff with her kit over here. We saw a ton of mobility, a bit of grouping as well, even like a pistol shot somewhere. And so I'm excited to see where in her kit all of these animations are actually occurring, and hopefully her liberation doesn't get too annoying in combat, because we all know what it's like having Robin on your team in HSR. Why is she a gun user? Well, because she pulls out the blicky right here. Look at that. Boom. Boom. She pulls it out right there. That's why she's a gun user. So we got that going. Now let's go ahead. Let's dive right on into her kit. We've got the official profile reveal. Woven Melodies, Ciaccona. So a wandering bard from Renacida, Ciaccona. She sings not only for divinity, but also for the common folk. Blah, blah, blah. Bards are the couriers of heroes' tales. No need for applause or flowers. I'm just a storyteller like any other. Nice to meet you, great hero. You can call me Ciaccona. And we saw her a ton during the 2.2 story quest. Right at the start, she's got a special ability to, I guess, make people fall asleep, though she's ashamed of that one. And she probably was one of the most emotive characters we've seen on the roster yet. I know a lot of people were looking forward to her after just her brief reveal in the 2.2 quest. Maybe we'll get an overview for why one of her horns is broken, because, you know, that is naturally, I think, something you don't want to have happen if you are equipped with one of these since birth. Yeah, these breaking is probably, you know, there's probably like some sort of dark story behind that. So we'll see what's going on. Now, her attribute is, of course, going to be Aero, since she does specialize in Aero erosion from the kit, from her kit preview that we saw before. Her weapon is going to be pistols, and when it comes to her ascension, be, you know, very mindful of this. She's going to be using the Blazing Bone from the Dragon of Dirge. She's going to be using When Iris' Bloom from the Fleur de Lis boss fight, and then Golden Fleece, which I'm pretty sure you can just track on the map and accumulate very, very, very easily. So everything in here can be pre-farmed. Do keep that in mind. You should have all of this ready to go for her release, as long as you're paying attention to what you're actually grinding. And with this as the most recent weekly boss, chances are people haven't messed up too much over here. Now let's get into her normal attack. And this is where stuff gets a little bit complicated. She might have one of the more complicated normal attacks in the game. You can see from this animation over here, she has a pretty nice little attack chain where she'll actually go up into the air, slam down, do a little bit of a song, and then at the end of it, she's going to end up summoning a Sylph, which is, of course, that bad boy over there. And so basically what she does is she has 4 stages in her basic attack. The last one's going to inflict Aero erosion, and if the first 3 stages of her basic attack are interrupted by dodging, she can actually continue the attack chain. That's something very, very, very unique. That's on very few characters. Most of the time when you're on a character and you start their basic attack chain, you do that, it's going to end up actually resetting it. And so it looks like for her, at least Ciaccona at the very least, when you are in the first 3 stages and you interrupt it by dodging, you can just use a basic attack to continue onward with it. And considering that she needs to advance to stage 4 to actually inflict her Aero erosion stack, that's something that's going to be very, very, very helpful, especially when you are trying to build up to those multiple stacks to, reach the cap and actually inflict that damage. After the 4th stage, she starts a solo concert. And if Ciaccona's basic attack stage 4 or the solo concert ends early, proactively, from you dodging or getting interrupted, she's going to make that Sylph. You can see over there, she actually did not move at all. That's why the solo concert continues. But if she moves backwards, the Sylph goes ahead and continues it. When Ciaccona or an ensemble Sylph performs solo concert, they give a 24% Aero damage bonus to all nearby resonators on the team. So it actually looks like she doesn't need 2 of them. I thought it was 2 Sylphs that you needed, and then a 12% damage for both of them on the field at the same time. But I guess it looks like she only needs 1 actually doing the solo concert, and that'll just give that 24% Aero damage bonus. So that's actually quite nice. That was probably a misunderstanding on my part, or they've actually changed it since she was in Crossing Stars. Up to 2 of the ensemble Sylphs can actually exist simultaneously, and if her basic attack stage 4 is interrupted, the Sylphs generated will actually finish the attack and then enter solo concert themselves. Basically, if she's not able to either complete her 4th basic attack or her solo concert, the Sylphs will just finish it for her. Her resident skill also makes them as well. So she also has a mid-air, she also has her heavy attack, which is probably not going to be used very often because you'd rather just complete the 4-hit basic attack chain to apply erosion. She's going to be having an aim mode, which you're probably only going to do when you're exploring, not actually using it in combat, because again, it doesn't apply the erosion or give the solo concert benefit. Her mid-air attack, though, actually lets you perform up to 2 consecutive attacks, and then if you press your normal attacks at the right time, you're just going to use your basic attack stage 4 after the second hit. And so the mid-air attacks, depending on when you're going to swap in with her, well, it looks like they will actually be used to help speed up and actually get to that 4th basic attack that, again, summons the Sylph and or provides the heavy attack or the Aero damage bonus. So you might actually be using these quite often. They should be pretty helpful. Then you got the dodge counter, which should advance you faster to your 4th basic attack as well. Now we got a resonant skill, and let's see what this one does. And that causes you to dash through your enemy, probably do a little bit of grouping as well, and then you'll be able to follow up with it and quickly advance to the 4th stage of your basic. You see her doing a solo concert at the end of it over there. And that's going to basically be a shortened combo that you can do. Press your resonance skill, then mash the basic attack button, and then you'll be performing a solo concert, getting all those buffs and then applying the erosion too. So that's just another way that you'll be able to go about it. Move a certain distance, deal Aero damage, and inflict 1 stack of erosion on the target hit, so you can see a lot of erosion application, and then press the normal attack button in time to cast the 2nd stage of your basic. When Ciaccona interrupts her basic, heavy attack, mid-air attack, or solo concert with the resonant skill, an ensemble Sylph is generated. And so she can actually go ahead, chain this across a bunch of her animations, actually cast it in the air as well, summon a Sylph, and then just go ahead and continue on with the rest of her application. And so I'm imagining that you can maybe use this right after you're about to finish your basic attack 4, cancel it with the skill, but then summon the Sylph to finish the attack, and then, you know, go ahead and immediately go into another basic attack 4. A lot of different ways to get all of these different attack chains off. It looks like she's going to have a lot of fluidity in her kit, a lot of ability to continue her attack chains even through a cancel, and I think the end result is that she's going to feel like one of the smoothest units to actually use on the roster, because even if you're like actively dodging, even if you're doing, you know, you're putting in a lot of these inputs, everything should be happening quite well. And it looks like it's going to be really hard to actually mess up her rotations because of all of this. And lastly, we've got her Resonance Liberation. And this is where stuff gets a little bit, you know, a little bit complicated over here, right? Singer's Triple Cadenza. Ciaccona and her Sylphs perform an improvised symphonic poem together, dealing Aero damage once to nearby targets and then entering Recital. And then Recital is basically when she has like the QTE that you're going to be seeing over here. Let's take a quick look at it. And she'll have the options of A, applying Aero Erosion, or A, or B, which looks like A over here, applying Spectral Frazzle. And the default state of this ability is that it's going to apply Aero Erosion. And if you swap off of her while she's in this state, she'll just continue whichever cast she had before. And so if you go ahead, you press A for Frazzle, and then you swap off of her, she'll be continually applying Frazzle at every single opportunity. While if you just press D, or you don't press anything at all, she'll apply Aero Erosion instead. And so naturally, this means that she's going to be a bit of a supporter for the Spectral Frazzle archetype as well. And you'll see over here, I'm not sure if they'll give the exact number, but she applies 20 ticks of a debuff throughout her Liberation cast. It lasts so long that she will straight up apply 20 stacks of either of these debuffs. Or, like, you know, 2, 18, 3, 17, however long you decide you want to do it. She also gains additional Concerto energy if she hits these timings properly on the QTEs, which means that A, in some of her Spectral Frazzle teams, you might just want to like open up with this and then just do a rotation that way, because obviously you saw a lot of Aero damage buffing in this kit. A character like Phoebe or Zani is not going to use any of that Aero damage at all. So there's actually going to be quite a few ways to play this character. We're going to be exploring all of them on release and see, you know, just how smooth her rotations can possibly be. Because as you'll notice, this ability has a lot of words, but it's not really that complicated. Just 20 stacks of either debuff, you can mix and match between the two, and it does a pretty big burst of damage at the start. It does look a little silly though, I'm going to be honest. This doesn't really look like Wuthering Waves. It looks more like a, I don't know, like Dance Dance Revolution, some shit. But you'll see on release just how applicable she can be across a wide variety of teams. Now, let's go ahead and let's get into her Forte circuit, because I think this is where we actually see her use her pistol, and this is actually where I think a lot of her damage on field is going to come from. When there are 3 segments of musical essence, her heavy attack is replaced with quadruple downbeat, and that's just what it looks like. It looks like we have some grouping over here. So she just goes ahead, sucks all the enemies in, and then hits them with the blicky. So yeah, you just got to build up 3 stacks of a unique Forte circuit that she has. Hold down the heavy attack button, and then boom, she'll suck in enemies and then shoot them with a big little burst at the end. She consumes all of her musical essence to shoot downbeat notes forward to deal arrow damage, pulling the nearby targets, and inflict a stack of arrow erosion. It can be cast in the air while close to the ground. So once again, a lot of her moves are able to be used in a wide variety of different ways. Ciaccona can hold up to 3 segments of musical essence. That's what she uses to cast this quadruple downbeat. And casting basic attack stage 4 or her intro skill recovers 1 segment of musical essence. So as you're starting to see over here, you're gonna want to use her intro. Get 1 stack, her 4th basic, get a 2nd stack, then use her skill, and then your 4th basic again, and then you'll get the 3rd stack. So it should actually be relatively easy to get this damage bonus right off the bat. You know, get that solo concert going, dodge if you need to, but then continue the attack chain afterwards. Doesn't really seem like it's going to be that complicated at all. But so we're also going to have to see something else when it comes to her intro skill. When she uses her intro skill, she'll also apply arrow erosion too. You can see it's basically applied on every single move in her kit. Her 4th basic attack, her intro skill, her resonance skill, and her Forte enhanced attack, and then 20 times on her resonance liberation. So that's like already 5 different ways that she applies arrow erosion. There are so many of them in this kit. The second part of her intro skill is that if you follow up with a basic attack right after casting it, then you will end up able to use the 3rd stage of her basic attack. And that means that you'll immediately go into the 4th stage, and so you gain the 1 stack of her Forte circuit from simply casting this, and then you'll immediately gain the 2nd by just following up with basic attacks. Then you press her E, advance for her basic attack chain again, and then get the 4th stack, and that'll basically be it for this unit. Then you hold down the heavy attack, and then boom, hit him with the blicky, and, you know, suck him in, and then kind of like go forward from there. I think she's actually going to be very, very simple to use. You can see from the gameplay over here, there's nothing really too complicated about it, especially from the footage. She is, in my opinion, going to be one of the easiest to use units in the game, and should apply arrow erosion, even if you're like button mashing, not even reading her kit, and just like playing her super, super, super casually. That's just my opinion though, but hopefully you can see why I have that opinion. We got our outro skill, and this is where people might start having some concerns, depending on where you stand on the elemental side of the table. Arrow erosion damage dealt to nearby targets is amplified by 100% for 30 seconds. So you can kind of view this as really similar to the outro skill that Phoebe currently has in her confession mode state. Confession enhancement. Grant silent prayer to the resonator on the field, reducing the spectral resistance to nearby targets by 10% and granting 100% spectral frazzle damage amplification. So this is the thing. You might notice, wow, Ciaccona's outro skill just looks like a worse version of Phoebe's. It looks like it doesn't do nearly as much, it doesn't have nearly as much of an effect because Phoebe has the spectral resistance reduction and the frazzle amp. The reason why Ciaccona's seems to do less is because Ciaccona does way fucking more damage on field. I'm gonna be honest. I think confession mode Phoebe literally does the least damage in the game for a sub DPS character. I don't know any other unit with a high level investment that does this little damage in combat. She has no motion values at all. She, like, investing in, like, her critical stats and attack stats, all of that stuff is completely pointless when you're on confession mode Phoebe, because she literally does not do anything. Hits for, like, 20k with, like, 2k attack and, like, 300% critical damage. You might as well just run her on Moonlit and not actually have equipment on her. What I think the trade-off is going to be for Ciaccona is that, A, her outro skill is not going to be as strong as Confession Phoebe's, but she's straight up just going to deal way more damage while on field. And this is sort of like the proof, the evidence that I have when it comes to this situation. So you can see over here, Confession Mode Phoebe's Liberation at level 10 deals 401% damage. Her Absolution Mode gives it a big damage multiplier. That's functionally nothing for an ability that you cast once a rotation. At level 1, Ciaccona's Liberation does more damage than Confession Mode Phoebe's level 10. On cast. Straight up. Her level 1 does more damage. So, hopefully you can see why her outro skill isn't as, stacked up as Phoebe's. Because the motion values over here are quite a bit significantly higher. Quite a bit higher. So that's the trade-off. That's the difference between the two. Now let's get into the inherent skills. Casting a Resonance Liberation is going to give her a shield equal to 100% of her max HP for 4 seconds. So this basically means that she'll function as a bit of a tank, which, again, I think this really leans into her being one of the easiest to use units in the game. This basically makes it so that if you are doing those QTE attacks, you will not get murdered by whatever hologram, whatever boss is on the field. And if you combine this with the Liberation actually giving her a 50% damage reduction, and her interruption immunity, yeah, you're kind of actually going to be a tank once you start singing. But her shield only lasts 4 seconds. Let's be honest. 4 seconds basically is 4 QTEs that you'll be able to input. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get off exactly what you need and then swap off on her with everything that's going on in terms of the durability over here. One thing you also have to factor in is that Ciaccona will also get additional Concerto for each QTE she hits. And so if you simply cast her Liberation, you get 20. And then you cast all of her QTEs, you get off like 4 of them, you'll be at 60. And so you're going to need to find like 40 from somewhere, which could be as easy as like pressing her E. You get Concerto from using your intro skill, that's 10, 25, and then you're already at like 85 over here. Hey, if you actually run like Cadenza itself, which is the pistol that gives Concerto energy and it's at like high refinement, you might be able to just like go intro skill, E, Liberation, and then do a bunch of these QTEs, and then you'll be ready to like straight up swap to another unit and then have like her outro skill ready. There are going to be a lot of unique combos you'll be able to do because it's pretty clear that if you're just using like her basic attacks and then you're using her quadruple downbeat from her Forte circuit, you'll have enough Concerto to, to fully fill up her bar without actually going ahead and hitting any of the QTEs. And so she might have some unique tech with the Concerto button or with some of the Concerto weapons like Cadenza as well. And if you're wondering what Cadenza actually does, I've got a copy of it. When Resonant Skill is cast, restores 12 Concerto energy, and if it's at R5, it'll go up to 16, and she might have some really, really fast combos available, depending on how creative you want to be. Oh, I can actually R5 mine right now. So yeah, we'll be experimenting with that. But yeah, there's definitely some potential over there for her rotations to get very, very, very creative with all the stuff that she has going on. Especially when she's going to be in Phoebe teams and she doesn't really, need to do anything other than apply Spectral Frazzle. So that's definitely something to look forward to. Her next inherent ability is going to be increases the heavy attack quadruple downbeats damage by 30%. And that's going to naturally just give her more damage potential. Which, like I mentioned before, she has a lot more damage potential than a character like Confession Phoebe. Balancing that outro skill strength. Now let's take a quick look at her combat guide, and this is probably one of the shortest combat guides we have for a character. Perform basic attack stage 4 or cast intro skill to restore Forte. When the Forte is full, perform an enhanced heavy attack and pull them in. Interrupting Ciaccona's basic attack stage 4 or casting Resonance Skill to interrupt some of the normal attacks will generate sylphs. Up to 2 sylphs may exist. And while entering solo concert, Ciaccona or her sylphs grant Aero damage bonus, and she just gets sylphs for basically doing anything. After casting her Liberation, press the interactive buttons at the right time to inflict Spectral Frazzle or Aero Erosion. Switching characters will not end this effect early, and the only way to end this effect early is to switch back to her while the solo concert is still going on. So yeah, you can see this is one of the most simple to use units in the game. I think that as long as you're willing to, A, wait for the Aero Erosion archetype to be fleshed out further, because let's be honest here, there's only one other character in the game that currently works with Aero Erosion, and that's going to be, well, you guessed it, Aero Rover. They're the only one that currently really works with Erosion right now. As long as you're waiting for this archetype to be fully fleshed out and have a little bit more substance, I think you'll be just fine with the unit. However, one thing to also keep in mind is that Aero Rover's weapon is Blood Pack's Pledge, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, right? This weapon right now is the backbone of the Aero Erosion archetype, and it currently sucks balls. The reason why it sucks balls is because A, it gives an arrow damage amplification that goes up by 4% every refinement, so it goes up to like 26% at R5, and we have not gotten any refinements of it yet. And so the end result is that all of Aero Rover's buffing potential is locked behind copies of this weapon, and we desperately need more. And my hope is that during the Ciaccona story event, which I believe is permanent, and, you know, like dies into like her story quest, has like rewards, all that baked in, we get more refinements of this weapon. Because currently it's in the Aero Rover's release state, they are the worst support in the game, even for Aero teams. Straight up, the worst Aero support in the game. Varina's better, Shorekeeper's better. They're outperformed, outclassed by everybody else. And so, if we don't get more refinements of it this patch, Ciaccona's gonna feel like dog shit. I'm just gonna be honest with you. They're going to feel bad, because half of Ciaccona's power, at least in my opinion, is going to be the fact that Aero Rover's outro skill effectively doubles the stacks of Aero Erosion. At a baseline, Aero Erosion has 3 max stacks, and Ciaccona generates way more than that throughout her kit. And so having this outro skill on the team is really, really important to actually letting her do as much of the as much Aero Erosion damage as possible. You combine that with her 100% amp as well, and the damage should actually be significant. But without the buffing potential that you really want from a, you know, higher refinement Blood Pack's Pledge, the team's damage is going to be a lot more disappointing than it could be. That's my hope for her release, and I'm praying that she's a lot more usable than she appears right now. And there are, you know, definitely other characters that might benefit from her Aero damage bonus, like a Gian, but I'm pretty sure that Mortefi, in all circumstances, is going to actually outperform her for like pure buffing, pure raw damage potential, because Mortefi actually does a lot, and with his heavy attack damage amplification, I do think it's going to be still better for Gian as a whole, because Ciaccona doesn't really have the type of like amplification that Gian necessarily wants, because homie does no Aero Erosion damage, which, you know, is actually quite nice if you're like a Gian main, or like somebody who wants to get top tier performance on this character. That means you don't have to pull a limited 5-star to actually reach that. And other Aero characters on the roster, well, again, nobody does Erosion except for Aero Rover. And so do keep in mind that this is going to be kind of like the key pairing that you're going to be having moving forward, and there's not going to be that much else going on with the damage potential over there. That'll be our coverage of Ciaccona's showcase and her kit. Hopefully it was helpful and lets you be a bit more well-informed for any of your future plans. As, you know, something to keep in mind, a lot of people are thinking that Cartithia should have some Aero Erosion damage in her kit because, well, of course, right? Her signature Echo, and it's her signature Echo, pretty clearly, right? Basically is fully on, like, Aero Erosion Sonata sets. So, if you're looking to get some buffing potential for Cartithia, it's basically confirmed at this point. Ciaccona is going to be another character that you're going to want to keep in mind. And with her being this easy to play and having like this much flexibility as well, maybe if you're somebody that actually owns Zani or Phoebe too, you've got some potential there as well. Let me know what you all think. Peace.